Over the Fence. It is just an absolute pleasure to be with you today. You are the executive director for Camp, which is a very special place in my heart. And so I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Camp and what makes it so special for you, for us, for our community, and for the Center Point area.
Awesome. Yeah, I am always happy to talk about camp. It is just a real gem here in the Hill Country, and sometimes too much of a hidden gem. So we're happy to let more and more people know about who we are and what we do. And our story starts way back in 1979 when a group of Air Force pediatricians got together and really inspired by one particular camper, a little boy named Matt, who was the first pediatric kidney transplant patient in the Air Force or in the military hospital system, and also the first pediatric kidney transplant patient in Texas. And he was being seen by one of what became Camp's founders, Dr. Chris, at her clinic at Wilford Hall on Lackland Air Force Base one day. And he said, "Dr. Chris, my mom has found this camp that says as long as you sign off on it and say it's okay, I can go and ride a horse just like my hero, John Wayne. But you have to say it's okay. Will you sign off on it?" And Dr. Chris said, "Of course I'm going to sign off on it. Just next time I see you, I'm going to have two questions to ask you. I'm going to want to know the name of your horse and the name of your counselor." So he goes off all excited, and it wasn't until his next scheduled appointment with her a few months later, she heard he was there, went to the waiting room to check in with him, or the exam room to check in with him, and said, "All right, Matt, you know, I've got two questions for you. What was the name of your horse and what was the name of your counselor?" And he broke into tears. Well, after getting through that emotional moment, she learned that they had gone through all the paperwork process, all the application, had gotten packed up, had gone to start on-site registration, check in at the camp. And the folks said, "You know, we're sorry, but we just don't think that we can take care of someone with your medical needs here. You can't stay." And of course, he and his mom were devastated. And Dr. Chris didn't know all that had happened. So when she asked him about it, they relived that experience and that story for her. And she decided then and there, you know what, no child, regardless of their illness, disability, ability to pay, any of that, nothing should be a barrier to allowing kids with whatever needs the opportunity to have a summer camp experience, just like their peers who don't have special needs. And again, she got together with some other pediatrician buddies there and some nurses. And my understanding is the medical volunteers outnumbered the campers for the very first session they ever held. But they came out to Camp La Junta here in the Hill Country and did a weekend camp. That was the very first camp session that Camp ever had. And I think it was about 34 campers, something like that, and about 40 healthcare volunteers.
Wow.
And, you know, as it turns out, as our weather can be unpredictable in these parts, it rained all weekend. But they rode horses in the rain. They pushed wheelchairs through the mud because there were no accessible sidewalks or anything like that at that time. They went canoeing in the rain, and they had the time of their lives and just thought it was the greatest. And so when the weekend was over, they the people putting it on, Dr. Chris and Dr. Bob and Dr. Fred, said, "All right, so should we keep doing this?" And the campers all said, "Absolutely, we have to keep doing it." And they said, "Well, if we're going to keep doing it, we need to give it a name. What do you think we should call it?" And they said, "Well, we should just call it camp." And so then they said, "Well, we can't just call it camp. There are a lot of camps out there. It needs to have its own name." And they're like, "Well, what if camp stands for something?" And so those first campers way back in 1979 came up with the acronym of Children's Association for Maximum Potential. And that's how Camp was born. And now, you know, 41 years later, we are still doing camps for kids who don't have another place to go, and adults also these days who don't have opportunities available to them anymore. And we're doing it for a lot more than the 34 or so that they started with way back in 1979. In 1989, Camp bought the property that we have here in Center Point that we call Camp. And ever since that time, we've been working to improve the property. And I know we'll talk more about some of that as we
Yes.
go along.
Yeah.
We've had some really exciting developments here in the last few years, new additions to the property. But, overall, we typically serve well over 1,000 kids and adults with special needs every year. One of the ways that we're able to do that is through the generous support of donors, of course, but also through the generous support of volunteer counselors who come to serve one-on-one as a buddy to our campers with special needs. And then also our healthcare volunteers who come to provide their expertise to make sure that we're able to safely provide for the needs of our campers, whether those are medical needs, physical needs, cognitive needs, behavioral needs. We have a really dedicated group of folks that we think of as the camp family who make all of that happen. And we couldn't do it without any of those groups.
And over the years, I've seen camp grow, and it just is absolutely incredible when you talk about that family. You really have to get out there and you have to experience it. I've been out there a couple of different times, had the opportunity again to see it grow and to see at a different points during a camp session. And one of the most impactful ones was when we did the groundbreaking for your latest expansion at the end of a camp. And it is absolutely something that you have to experience. You have to see the joy on the faces of every single person. You have to experience that feeling and understand the impact that you guys are making out there. So before we get into kind of how things have shifted out there, we have to talk about how camp has expanded. So through those generous donations, which is kind of how we ended up coming to talk about this today because of Big Give. But talk to us a little bit about what expansion has recently happened. And it was right before kind of COVID happened, I think, right?
Right. Well, and the amazing thing for me, I will have been here for 13 years right after Thanksgiving of this year. So I just in that short period of time out of camp's whole 41-year history, I have seen so much that has changed and improved in the growth that we've had. So the most recent thing that we did is we built a new arts and crafts center with an amphitheater that just provides a great venue for campfires and other outdoor activities, as well as the arts and crafts activities that our campers engage in. And with the new arts and crafts center, it replaced outdoor pavilion that was about 1/4 the capacity of what the new Arts and Crafts Center can provide in terms of having that number of campers present and engaged in activities at a time. And it's also climate controlled, so that in January, when it's too cold to be in the air pavilion, we have a dedicated space for that. And in July, when it's really so hot that people need a place to go inside and cool down during activities, we also have that available at that point in time. So that is one of the elements that we did. We also built a new camper cabin that is really designed thinking about our campers who have serious medical needs, who are on ventilators for breathing support, who have feeding pumps and all kinds of equipment that they need to be plugged into just to stay healthy. And we've made it work in some of our older cabins over the years, but it's not been there's not been as much elbow room as we would have liked. There has not been as much support for electrical plugs as we would like. And with the new cabin, we were really able to design it with those campers in mind. And it serves all of our campers really well, but particularly for those campers who really have a lot of serious medical needs, who need the 24-hour awake nursing care that we provide overnight for them. This cabin is really just set up to meet their needs without any barriers to that or any challenges to overcome. And so that's another really exciting piece of the recent project, and the final piece of it is a new healthcare center. Our old infirmary was one of the original buildings. When Camp bought this property in 1989, it had been sitting empty for a number of years, but previously it had been known as Camp Christian, as I understand it, dating back at least to the 1940s, if not even to the 1920s. Our records aren't really great on all of that. But in the 70s or 80s, it had kind of just, I guess, stopped in terms of having campers at their camp sessions. And Reverend Veal, who owned the property at the time, had been approached by developers who wanted to build housing or do different things with the property. And he kept saying, no, I just don't feel like that's the right thing. I'm not sure what is, but I feel like I'm being called to hold on to this property a little longer. And then somehow, Dr. Chris and Dr. Fred and Dr. Bob found Reverend Veal and found this property, and it just became, part of camp's history, and a really, I think, great part of the Hill Country's history of how that connection happened. Yeah. But the old infirmary had been a building that existed from way back in the early days of Camp Christian, and had been added on to. Camp would get a little bit of money and they would add a porch on. And then they'd get a little more money and they would enclose that porch and make it a screen porch. And then they get a little more money and they would enclose it and air condition it and then add on another porch. And all of that had just been cobbled together in a mismatched kind of way over the years. And we made it work. We I think at camp have been very resilient about being good stewards of what we have, but always dreaming of what could be for our campers. And so the new healthcare center definitely provides that with a medication management room where our healthcare volunteers have plenty of room to really prepare and get the medications out that our campers need. Every summer, we give somewhere around 28,000 doses of scheduled medications. That's not your, PRN medications that are as needed because somebody's having an allergy attack or something like that. That's the scheduled medications that they come to camp with, over 28,000 doses. And managing that, you need a space where you can be organized with it, where you have the elbow room that the healthcare volunteers can really make it work. And we did it in the old infirmary, but with the new health center, it is just a world, a better space for all of that. The exam rooms are really great in the new health center as well. If we have a camper who needs first aid or has something else going on, all of that is available. We've got laundry facilities there in that building as well. We have some isolation rooms. So if a camper is ill and needs to be isolated from other folks, they have that opportunity. And one of the really cool things that we did with those isolation rooms is that we built back porches onto each of those rooms. So if a camper is not feeling so bad that they just have to be in bed, they can go out on their back porch of their isolation room, and it's isolated from the other rooms. So they're still, in isolation, but they can be out at camp. Two of the rooms overlook flagpole, where we do morning flagpole and evening flagpole before dinner every day. And it's a big song and cheer fest where there's a lot of spirit. So if they're feeling well enough to want to engage in that, then they would have that opportunity there as well. We really try to think through all of the things that could best serve our campers in giving them the experience of camp, even if they're not feeling 100%. And then the other wing of that building is a training wing, because our healthcare volunteers who come to us, part of our mission is education, and we provide those healthcare volunteers with continuing education that can allow them to get CEUs, CMEs, CNEs, whatever their discipline is, to help them keep their licenses current and to give them the latest and greatest in terms of caring for kids like our campers or adults like our campers. And so we offer that continuing education along with many of our summer weeks of camp. And now we have a great training room as part of that healthcare center that we can do that in as well. One of the things that's coming next-ish, anyway, is in a little nook of the healthcare center makes sort of an L, and in the middle of that L, we have plans for a new fully accessible playground and tree house. And when we built our new cabin, we had to tear down our old playground, and it wasn't as fully accessible as we would have wanted it to be anyway. But again, we made the best of what we had available, and we're good stewards of it. But now that we have an opportunity to build something with a lot of forethought, we plan an ultra accessible a playground and treehouse facility. It'll have a music garden. It will have some water play features. So all kinds of things that are kind of the next thing that we anticipate doing. Of course, COVID is slowing everything down, but we're always thinking. And when I first came to camp in 2007, they had already started doing a master planning process and thinking about sort of daydreaming. What could our property be? How could it best serve campers for the long haul? And the first thing that was realized from that dream was in 2012, we built our aquatic center, which has a slow river, it has a therapeutic warm pool, it has a splash pad spray ground, and it has just a large recreational pool that has a beachfront entry for those with mobility issues, as well as a deep end for those who like the deep water swimming. So we really, again, tried to think of all of our campers and wanted to design a facility that would meet 100% of their needs through different elements. So that was 2012, we built that. 2014, we added a wastewater treatment plant here on site just to provide the infrastructure so that all of these other things that were coming, like a new cabin, a new healthcare center, new arts and crafts center, would have the infrastructure needed to support them. In the future, we want to build another camper cabin. We want to build some healthcare volunteer housing. So we've got big plans, and you know, it just takes big money to make all those plans reality. And in the meantime, we're again just trying to be great stewards of what we have and use it as well as possible.
You absolutely have done that. I mean, from my humble opinion, and I can say, you know, from an economic development standpoint, when I think about strategic plan and master planning, and what that looks like from communities, you've done that. You've done that within your camp. I mean, you've taken what you started with and you've developed an entire community within camp. And so well done, Brandon. I'm just so impressed with what everybody has done there. You know, what your group of volunteers are doing. I can't even imagine the logistics of what goes into even doing one camp, one session. And everything that you've put together to make that experience the best that it can be for each one of those individuals. It just completely boggles my mind to even begin to process that. So, I mean, again, it is amazing to me, and it's so impactful. And I understand then when I get there at the end of a session, why they don't want to leave. Right? Why they don't want to go and why they come back every year, and how meaningful it is for those families. You know, it's meaningful for the campers, but it's also so meaningful as a respite for their caregivers. You know, I know those are stories on the other sides of things, and what you provide as a family unit for each of those families is just absolutely incredible. I know we talked about a little bit about how COVID has slowed things down. How you guys have pivoted in the midst of that, continuing to give your campers the experience virtually as much as possible. But what you're getting ready to do, I think, being able to pivot yet again, and let's talk a little bit about that, and maybe being able to open up camp in a different way.
Yes. So yeah, we have been offering virtual programming starting last spring. We did a whole week of virtual camp this summer. That honestly, we didn't know what we were doing, right? It's such a new game for everybody, but we thought it through, thought about our campers, and the feedback that we got from the campers and families who participated was just amazing. And we felt like we were able to meet that need as best we could, considering all the circumstances. And so that has led us to offering some other virtual programs this fall. But what we also are starting right now are some in-person family weekend retreats. We actually did one last weekend, was the first one. And it was successful. Great feedback from families. We are socially distancing during those retreats. They look different from any program we've ever done before, because each family kind of progresses through activities as a family unit. So there's one family at canoeing at a time. There's one family at outdoor cooking, one family at archery, one family at swimming. Actually, sometimes we're able to do two families at swimming, because we have so many great features in our aquatic center. And with our new arts and crafts center, we can sometimes have two families there, because we have multiple spaces available that we can keep people socially distanced. For meal times, each family has an assigned table, and we're serving them restaurant style, so that they aren't up and around and interacting with other people. We're delivering everything to their tables that they need. So we've really thought things through in this COVID era that we're all living in, to be able to provide something as safe as possible for these families, that gives them the opportunity to break out of their normal routine. What we hear from our families is they are hungry for these opportunities, because they have been quarantined pretty much since March. And even some who are starting to go to school or do different things now, it's still a very different world that we're all living in. And for families of kids with special needs, who sometimes have greater immunocompromised systems that make them more susceptible to COVID or related illnesses, the families are necessarily that much more cautious about what they engage in. So we're very proud of the fact that we've been able to come up with a system that works to protect them, but also give them opportunities. And so that's something that we're doing. And just a plug for anybody who actually is out there watching it, we are always looking for new volunteers to help with programs like our family weekend retreats. We're requiring those volunteers to be 18 or older. We're requiring the volunteers to also maintain social distancing protocols and things while at camp, and doing temperature checks in preparation for camp. So we have a lot of things that are in place, but I'll tell you, Teresa, one of the things that has been I don't know, a little sad, I guess, for me over the years, is that we have not had a lot of volunteer support from Kerr County, from our local community. Most of our volunteers end up coming from San Antonio, from Briery, and we need to get the word out. So you're helping us do that. And I hope that some folks will say, wow, that sounds like something I'd really like to get involved with. Again, for the family retreats, helping with horseback, just being a sidewalker to help while a camper is riding on a horse, just to make sure that they don't fall off. So no major skills needed, just, closed-toed shoes and the ability to help provide some balance, help with arts and crafts, help serving the meals in the dining hall. So we don't need people who have a lot of experience with special needs necessarily. We just need people who have a heart for helping people who want to get out and experience the things that camp has to offer.
So, that really surprises me. But I have to say, I've never volunteered at camp. So yeah, I'm one of those, and I live in Center Point. So let's talk about that a little bit. I've come out there, but I've never actually volunteered at camp. So let's look at that a little bit. So volunteers coming onto camp, and maybe in the midst of all of this, do they stay on camp? Do they come and go? What does that look like for some of your volunteers?
For the family retreats in particular, we are asking that people come and they stay, or once they leave, that they don't come back for that session, just to help protect against anything that they might pick up outside of the gates of camp, because we do temperature checks and screenings and everything when they get here. So we are asking for these weekends that once people arrive on Friday afternoon, that they stay until Sunday afternoon. Or if they are just helping with an activity like horseback, for example, they might be able to just come Saturday morning and leave Saturday evening and not stay overnight. So we may have some opportunities like that, but we would want them to stay all day on Saturday and not like leave for a little while and then come back. Again, just to help protect from any thing out there outside of our gates that somebody might bring back with them that we don't want to share. So the getting started, I would just direct people to go to our website at www.campcamp.org, campcamp.org. And go to the volunteer tab and then look for family retreats, and there will be information there. There's an application process. It's pretty short. We'll need to get a background check release from everybody, because we do background check everyone and run through the National Sex Offenders Public Registry, through all of the different registries that we need to protect our campers and families and all of us. So we're very thorough about all of that. But that's the way to get started, is just through our website. And there will be links, and there are also links to other staff. If there are questions that people have, people could always email me, and my contact information is there on the website as well. So we, are always anxious to get more people added to the camp family, and we definitely count our staff and volunteers as part of the camp family. It's not just our campers.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'm just going to reiterate the fact that maybe what has stopped people from even going to that tab and even considering it is that there's no special training needed then. And I think maybe that's what stopped me, is that, I think I don't have any healthcare training. And so that maybe that has, because I think of the special needs of the campers, I'm not qualified to be able to volunteer. So thanks for clearing that up. And I'll definitely be checking that out, because it's so close to home, and I've loved every single time that I've gone out there. So thanks for that.
Yeah, we'll put you to work for sure. One other thing, just to note, that may also be something that makes some folks a little cautious about getting involved. They may know more about our summer program that we typically run, which we weren't able to this past summer, because of COVID. But typically for our summer camp, we have volunteer counselors who come and spend a whole week at a time as a counselor, for a one-to-one counselor for a camper with special needs. And so they come on Sunday morning and stay until Friday afternoon and are here the whole time. And that can be a big commitment in terms of time for folks. But our other traditional programs that we run during the school year are shorter in length. We have our respite weekend camps that we hope will get to resume in 2021, at least at some point in time. We won't know until we get closer to that time how all of that looks. But those are just from a Saturday morning until a Sunday afternoon. So even a little shorter than the family retreats for those respite weekend camps. At those camps, just the campers are here. The parents and caregivers don't stay at camp with them like they do with the family retreats. And maybe I should say that for the family retreats, the campers are with their family the whole time. So our role as activity pals or as servers, serving pals in the dining hall, is really just to lead the activities, to assist with the activities, to assist with dining. We don't have to provide any kind of personal care, any medication administration. None of that falls on any of our volunteers for the family retreats. And the medication administration doesn't fall on our counselor volunteers ever either. We always have healthcare volunteers who provide that piece of it. But during summer camp, during respite weekend camps, some of the other personal care, assisting with showers, assisting with other hygiene needs, can fall to the counselor staff. But right now in the programs that we have active, that's not anything that any of us are assisting with. The other two programs that we typically run during the school year are our Parents Night Out program, which we do one Friday night a month at our offices on Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. So that one definitely makes sense that we get more local volunteers for that one because it's right there in San Antonio.
Sure.
And then the other one is our Teen and Adult Day Adventure, or TADA program, that is a field trip out into the community, one weekend day each month. Again, typically we have been just doing virtual stuff right now, but it could be a trip to SeaWorld or to Morgan's Wonderland or to the San Antonio Zoo. Most of those events do take place around San Antonio, but we also often will do sort of for the year-end one in May at the end of the school year, a swim party out here at Camp. So that would be a more local volunteer opportunity. And that's only a 4 to 5 hour time commitment for volunteers. So it's a lot more doable sometimes than committing to a whole weekend or a whole week of summer camp.
Yeah. Well, so many opportunities then. And I think something that would fit a lot of different criteria for people that have a heart of service and really, again, I think you have to get out to experience it, and what you get when you get out there. This is not only an opportunity for people that have a heart to serve, but as a retreat for yourself. I love coming out to camp. Every opportunity, I'm like, no, I'm coming to you. So yeah.
I'll tell you, go ahead. I was going to say, I'm going to look and tell you, I got an email today from a volunteer who came for this last family retreat, and his daughter was on our year-round staff for a while. So he's been coming and volunteering for a while. He drove down all the way from Arkansas to volunteer for this family retreat this past weekend. And here's what he said: "Thank you so much for allowing me to participate in camp. I get inspired to be better just by observing what goes on each time I visit. Someday I plan to come again and work for a week or two. It is far better than any vacation I have ever taken." And so just to reiterate what you were saying, he had the perfect words to just underscore from his own experience. And, I don't think that he's alone in feeling that way. I know that this is my full-time thing. Like, I get to live camp all the time, and I have the best job in the world, and I'm so truly blessed to do that. But for everybody who comes out and spends time, what I hear everyone saying, what I feel myself, is that I get so much out of it that is far greater than what I put into it. And I feel like I put a lot into it because I care and I want to, but the returns on that investment are just, exponential.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that it was one of the reasons that I was just over the moon about Mason, and having the opportunity to highlight him in our 40 under 40. So thank you for that opportunity, and I just, so excited to be able to go out there to present the award to him, but to be able to share his story and about how camp has impacted his life. So, we've posted that on Facebook, and there will be more opportunities coming up in October to be able to, read about his story and camp again. So,
Great. Yeah, we have so many people like Mason who are just incredibly dedicated to our campers and what we do, and again, are just vital parts of the camp family. But yeah, we're blessed to have Mason, and I'm so excited that he was honored with the 40 under 40.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk about camp. And I look forward to being able to go to the website and look for opportunities to volunteer there and get to spend more time at camp. So we'll make sure that we put that information and share your links for other people to check out camp and look for ways to serve the community and to serve camp. So thanks for your time, Brandon.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. We hope to see you and everybody else out there watching this at camp someday. Even if you just want to come for a tour sometime, get in touch. We'd love to see you.
Good. Have a great day, Brandon. Thank you.
Thanks.